Everybody just got to join now. And we're.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Knopf,
Here.
Mr. Amberlin,
Here.
Ms. Greenfield,
Here.
Ms. McCready,
Here.
Mr. McQueen,
Here.
Mr. Romero.
Here.
Ms. Samara.
Here. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News and Courier News, filed with the municipal clerk and posted on the municipal bulletin board on December 15th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
Welcome to the December 11th, 2023 meeting of the Bernardsville Borough Council. This meeting is being conducted in person in the council chambers in Borough Hall, and it is being broadcast live on YouTube and on Zoom to make it as convenient as possible for residents to attend the meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and those attending remotely on Zoom will be given the opportunity to comment at appropriate times during the meeting in accordance with the following guidelines. Members of the public will be allowed to speak during the open session and during formal public hearings on the agenda, including public hearings on ordinances. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, which will be monitored and enforced by the borough clerk. Comments containing offensive, profane, or indecent language or language constituting hate speech will not be permitted. Remote participants will be muted unless they are unmuted by the clerk, and remote participants will not be able to unmute themselves. The clerk will mute remote speakers at the expiration of their 3 minutes of allotted time, or if they make any inappropriate or offensive comments. All speakers, whether in person or on Zoom, shall state their name and address before making their comments. Speakers on Zoom shall activate their cameras so that they can be seen by members of the governing body and audience. Failure of the governing body to provide a live broadcast of this meeting or technological problems encountered during the course of the meeting that affect remote viewing and or participation will not invalidate this meeting or any action taken, including but not limited to the adoption of any ordinance, resolution, or motion. Okay, so let's jump up to Hillary, which is on our items of business, 8C, the Shamrock Shuffle.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you all again too. So State Smith would like to host our 4th Shamrock Shuffle on Saturday, March 23rd. We will use the same time and same course as in prior years. Work with our friendly officers. I know they've switched how we hire your officers, and so I was told to just do that in January, but otherwise everything else would be the same as in prior years.
We all good?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
And thanks for all the organization you put into that. Thanks. All right.
See, now it's a real test. Is Hillary gonna stay or not?
Let's have to stay for the police presentation. All right, so because of the current numbers of car thefts and break-ins that we've had, and actually they've been all over the state. I was just watching the news, there was something going on in Wall and Monmouth County. It's been an epidemic. So we asked our chief kind of talk about what's going on, what we're hearing from the state, what kind of support we need, how we're dealing with it. So the floor is yours.
I appreciate it, Mayor.
You know, if you can stand on the X there.
Yeah, we're around here.
Just, we want to make sure.
Just so I can have a little, talk about here. Certainly when you're brought to a meeting, we want to wonder why, and that certainly is a perception or is reality. So I brought some statistics with me just so we can go over some things as a group, and maybe we can come to some better understanding where we're at as a community. So I look back and I thought, let's not just worry about motor vehicle theft. Let's talk about a lot of non-violent crimes. Let's look at thefts as a whole. Let's look at frauds. Let's look at burglaries. So instead of just looking at this past year, I went back 15 years, went back 10 years, went back 5 years. Our trends, where we are today are no different than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. We're relatively flat. I mean, there's little blips, in the lines as we go along. But, when you look at those categories as a group, relatively flat. No major changes, nothing to be concerned about. As far as violent crimes go, we've never had a problem here in Bernardsville with violent crimes. That has stayed extremely low throughout my whole career, over 30 years. And I don't really see that changing. Pretty safe community, and I think that's going to continue for a long time. As we know, motor vehicle thefts, I think it's, anybody reads the paper, it's been described as an epidemic, not only in Somerset County, New Jersey as a whole, but in the nation. In 2022, there was over 1 million car thefts nationwide. New Jersey specifically experienced just over 15,000 motor vehicle thefts last year. We are on trend to surpass that this year by about 2%, is what I believe. It's 45 cars a day. So 45 cars a day in the state are being stolen. And why is that happening? Is that different now than it was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago? Well, the high of motor vehicle thefts in the last 15 years didn't occur recently. It occurred in 2012. So that was over 16,000 motor vehicle thefts occurred in 2012. Why do we all think it's an epidemic now? I think there was definitely a low. When you look statistically between, say, 14, 15, 16, 17, we trended down, even as a nation, nationwide statistics. I think in 14 and 15, we were down as a whole about 650,000 car thefts, as opposed to over 1 million when you look back in 2012, and we're looking where we are today. I'm not an expert on that, or why we trended so low and now we're trending back up, but I do know once the pandemic hit, our numbers here locally went back up, and I think they went up throughout the nation, whether that's as a result of inflation, whether as a result of the pandemic and the officers not being out there as much, I'm not really certain, but they certainly trended up significantly. Here, Somerset County, over the last couple of years, I think we've almost averaged about 250 car thefts each year. This year, we're at 190 right now as a county. Bernardsville, and let's speak more about Bernardsville. Last 15 years, our average is about 5 car thefts a year. Some years we've had 0, some years I think our high is 13. Our 13 was the first year of the pandemic. It was definitely a bad year, but it seems to definitely skew the statistics just a little bit. Last year we had 6, this year we have 6 currently. Our 6 motor vehicle thefts this year are from 4 specific incidences only. So out of 340 days during the year, we're looking at 4 days this happened in Bernardsville. 2 of the incidences, 2 vehicles were taken both times. I think what's more alarming in all of that is the last 2 we've had kind of probably spread around social media a little bit, because the criminals that are doing this have entered homes to take keys. We've never seen that trend before, but that is a nationwide trend. And there is a belief that the strong lock it or lose it campaigns that have gone around, residents have gotten smarter. We've locked our cars, we've brought our keys inside. Well, I think the criminals are now adapting to that, and now they're looking for a way to fulfill what they need to do. And I guess you can say some of them get orders to fulfill certain car requests that are wanted, and they're looking for a way to do that. We're not seeing violence when it's come to this. Even in New Jersey as a whole, you're not seeing a lot of violence that's coming out of these burglaries into homes in order to obtain the keys. Most oftentimes, it's an unlocked front door, it's an unlocked window, it's an unlocked garage door, but it's not every time. There have been forced entries also. Here in Bernardsville, there was a pry tool used in our second incident that happened on Glacier Drive, where a window was probably a little bit unsecured, and we believe a pry tool was used to open a window. But I can imagine, as a resident, I mean, listen, I live in a community also. I have a wife and children, and I sit there in my home. If I was invaded that way, I would feel the same way anybody else would. You don't want that to happen. thankfully, the two instances we just had, both of the residents in homes were sleeping. The criminals were in and out in a matter of seconds at both these homes, and they took 4 cars with them. You know, Bernardsville here, we have high-end cars. We have a wealthy community, so there's cars that are targeted, BMWs, Land Rovers, Mercedes, Porsches, Audis. You see those all around our town, and I think I've our 6 cars stolen, 4 of them were BMWs. Why is it all happening? You know, we talked about the inflation. There's social media is, I think, sometimes more harm than it is good, but there's a lot of TikTok trends that go around, specifically related to Kias and Hyundais, and now BMWs is the new trend. So I'm sure some of the criminal element feels a little emboldened about being able to put their successes on social media, so to speak. I also think that, you know, maybe some of the changes in the legislative changes around the state have maybe given the criminals a little bit more of a feeling that they can do it and get away with it, or not be treated as harshly. But I think trying to provide the statistics that I did tonight, I want to show everybody that we're not trending in some direction that's out of control. We definitely saw a spike during the pandemic. I think we had 13 one year, and the 2 years of the pandemic, and 7 the next. But we've come back down right in line with our averages that we've had over the last 15 years. I don't really see that going too much different. So I think what can we do about it? What are we doing about it? Is probably another good way to talk about it. From the police department standpoint, the law enforcement standpoint, our detective bureau is involved in weekly meetings with the state police. They're involved in monthly meetings on a county level. These are all intelligence meetings trying to get the most information on how to combat these crimes right now. The groups work together well. They're on the phone with each other all the time. We get information circulated down to us. We distribute it to our patrol officers. And in many cases, when we have specific information, we're able to do something about it. We're able to deploy our resources, whether we have to put more manpower on at night in order to combat it. We do what we can based on information. You don't get a lot of it that's specific to Bernardsville. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, these 6 deaths happened on 4 days of the year. Kind of hard to be out there or know exactly when this is going to happen or where in town it's going to happen. So we're doing our best. Our officers are very active. We have a young, really active, exciting group of officers that really want to be out there. So I feel very confident saying that they're out there really busting their butts and trying to do a good job to prevent this. They take it personally when it happens also. As a resident, as a community, what can we do? I think we all know what the best practices are. We know it's the best thing is to lock our cars, take our keys inside, lock our doors, lock our windows. Too oftentimes we see that these crimes that we investigate are because somebody left their keys in their car or because they left the door or window open. Do I think you should be allowed to? Sure. I mean, if that's where you feel comfortable, then by all means, leave your cars and your windows open. But I think criminals they're opportunists. Oftentimes they're looking for that open door. We have videos time and time again where they're just walking around pulling door handles, turning door handles. They're looking for an opportunity. We don't want to give them that opportunity. One thing we've seen, I think this is where the disturbing part about it comes, is our 2 recent deaths. These criminals, like I mentioned earlier, went into homes. This is a nationwide trend. And I think what I'm reading and what I'm hearing is that the criminals are adapting a little bit. So our lock it or lose it campaigns nationwide were so strong. I think more and more people decided to lock their cars and bring their keys inside. And it had a profound effect probably on the statistics. But now the criminals, they're going to people's homes. We don't want that to happen. What can you do about it? I think as a resident, every resident probably should make sure that they have good door locks, good window locks. When they go to bed at night, that they're not leaving windows open, especially on the first floor, or maybe even on the second floor where there's a deck, an exterior deck maybe leading up to that. Checking your front doors. I'd hate to say go spend more money, but there are cheap ways at a hardware store to provide extra locks for windows and make them a little safer. You can put cameras in, better exterior lighting, you can get an alarm. There's a lot of things that the resident can do to protect themselves and make their own home a little more secure. You shouldn't have to, I agree with that wholeheartedly, you shouldn't have to do it, but we're in a situation right now where these crimes are occurring, and I think we have to do the best as a group that we can to combat it. It's not a singular effort by the police department, it's a community-wide effort to slow it down. And on a way more expensive effort, a lot of towns, and around here, not many yet, but it's starting to trend, are starting to put ALPR cameras. So they're license plate reader cameras on the exteriors of the town. And what happens is a lot of these criminals drive stolen cars into the town to steal our cars. They'll drive really low-end cars that they steal from in the Newark area or Essex County area. They'll drive them into Burnsville looking for the high-end cars. We often get left with the lower-end cars in the middle of our street somewhere. That's oftentimes how we find some of these crimes, but lost my train of thought there real quick.
License plate readers and the outspray crimes.
So, and I know Joe loves those, so, yeah, I know you're really big on that, so, but it's a cost, we know that. What happens is, when those license plate readers are installed, the officers have a little, app on their phones. And if a stolen car were to come into town, they get notified. And all the officers in town would get notified that there's this certain stolen car driving around Bernardsville. And they can flood the area and look for that car and maybe make a difference. But we know in Bernardsville, there's probably 7 or 8 different ways, different avenues from other towns that you're gonna get into Bernardsville. So how many cameras are we put up? Listen, the costs are expensive. It's $3,000 for one camera each year. And then you're paying that cost yearly. So it's a very, very large expense. Somerset County is starting to install them around the county. I know Warren Township has a few off their exits off 78. Not many other communities around us have them. We do have an agreement with one of the companies that we did a memorandum of agreement with them in order to get any information that they obtain from their cameras to help us in an investigation. But we're not getting notified if a camera hits an area. Using the information they collect as part of that agreement. So.
Chief, are these
We
usually
were-
minor, wait, counsel first, please?
Got it.
Are they usually minors?
Recently, we had two of the suspects we identified were 15-year-old juveniles. And just, I'll go backwards, one of the cases specifically, the 2 that we had recently, we think they might be linked, we don't have proof of it, but the one specifically, we developed a large set of suspects. There were several of them, I think as many as 5 or 6. We're pursuing charges, and I'm really confident that we're going to get charges and make arrests in one particular case that happened recently.
Where did the cars end and where are they going?
It's a variety. I think it depends what kind of car. Some of the cars in the lower end are used for the parts, they're chopped up and used for parts. A lot of them end up on container ships over to Africa. Because there's countries on the other side of the ocean that can't get the vehicles we get here. And that's why they become so popular over there. They're not for sale. So they end up over in other countries.
And I know this isn't your thing, but are you confident the prosecutor will fall through if you're able to bring charges?
Yeah, I am. I am. I think it's being recognized. I know there's a lot of changes in the criminal laws recently. I know the governor back in late 22 signed some more laws into effect to try to enhance the penalties as regards to motor thefts. I haven't seen that that's had any effect yet because they're just the way they're construed. I'm not sure if they are, but I think everybody recognizes that this is a problem and we have to charge people. If we're going to get suspects with good evidence, we have to charge people.
Chief, are there certain times or days of the week that this is happening? Is there a pattern you look at in the state?
Yeah, well, I think statistically they say between 12 and 1 a.m. The most cars are stolen, but overall between midnight and 4 a.m. is the high end, that 44-hour window. Listen, in my career, I think, especially over the last 10 years, that 3:30 to 4:30, 5:30 range is when most of them are being taken here in the area.
What should a homeowner do if they know someone's in the house looking for keys?
Absolutely, please don't confront them. I think, listen, it's call the police, number one. I think we much rather see a vehicle being taken rather than somebody's life. Let the police do the job, don't confront them. Call 911 immediately and we'll respond and handle that part of it, but I'd much rather see a car drive out of Bernardsville than lose life, for sure.
Is that? Okay, wait, yeah, if you speak, you need to come stand on the
I have another question, John.
silver.
Chief, are you coordinating with Basking Ridge and Fawn Hills and Peacock Gladstone to see if you can compare notes for, and if there's any pattern between what's going on over there and what's going on over here, is it the same group?
It's amazing, looking around, that you don't, Baskin Ridge, they're gonna be, they're trending right now a little bit higher than us, Warren significantly higher. But some of the surrounding communities, even Mendham's behind it, they've only, seen a couple over there, reach a couple of car thefts.
Further from
They're
the
just
highway,
quite rough.
further from the highway. Yeah, I just need, for the people on Zoom, if you kind of go over by that X.
Yeah, you're on, I'm on the X now.
And ask a question.
Well, when I was on council, that's when the first plate reader came out, and we had an opportunity from a Chevy dealer over in Cedar Knolls that called us and said, you want these two cars? And we voted on it, we've got those two plate readers, which I think are still kind of in, are they still in the cars, the plate readers?
No, we don't have any anymore. The technology went out of the.
Okay, well, when we got it, actually, that was during the Times Square bomber. We watched the whole thing, track the car back to Connecticut and whatever. But today, it's all Wi-Fi and it's facial recognition. And I know that recently the police come into one of my buildings where I have fight clubs and whatever, and they were talking to me. They caught a guy over at the Morris County Mall that had a car that was picked up by one of the police cars. But the new technology, we didn't, I don't know if it was filed for any grants, but there was grants out there, but there was everybody, of course, applied for them. There are about 68,000 keys that I heard at the time. But it's something I think that we should invest on. So our guys have the latest technology to pick those guys up on that.
Yeah, some of the companies now we're seeing, it's a leasing program instead of just flat out buying it at the higher cost. So, listen, could we put a couple of cameras in town? Sure, but it's gonna, like I said, the one quote we have is about $2,800 a year per camera.
No, that's nothing compared to.
Well, listen, it's not my money to spend.
That's worked well.
I defer.
And we also have a plate reader on the car too, so when they're getting stopping someone, it's instantaneous, okay?
Chief, is it the same technology, same company that does them in the vehicles as well?
Say that one.
It's the same company that we do in the vehicles as well?
Yeah, that company would do both. What we saw with the vehicles is that we didn't get any hits on stolen vehicles. There's a lot of unregistered cars and expired licenses and things like that. So on the cars, is the cost effectiveness there? I'm not sure. It doesn't really show that it is, but it's a great tool. I mean, your officers, if you want more tickets, they're great tools, no doubt about it. But the one company in general that we spoke to, they mount these like pole mounted cameras. So when you're coming in to town from various locations, it's picking up license plates. And then it's alerting the officer in town.
You have a question?
Yeah, sure.
Just, yeah,
I'm Andy Older, by the way, just to everybody.
address is,
16 Fox Hall Drive,
thank you.
yes. Oh, thank you very much for all your efforts. I know it's been, it's difficult to obviously, find out who's doing all this and whatnot, but, just two questions, obviously, there's one answer, but, is there any plan to, put more, law enforcement on third shift where you see a lot of this happening right between hours of 12? That's the first question. Second question is my guess is, and I know the mayor mentioned it, there seems to be a little bit of a pattern. I've lived on Fox Hall Trail since 2013, and there's been, my neighbor had his car stolen twice, guy across the street from his place a couple weeks ago, guy in Blazer right down the street. It seems to be, it's targeting certain neighborhoods. Have you guys seen a pattern of certain neighborhoods that are getting?
Listen, I can certainly concur with your neighborhoods. I think might be the proximity to the highway where you are is kind of one of the first communities on, as you enter into one now, on that further. As far as the polling officers, you've certainly based on information, we're absolutely able to do that. On however we see fit. Right now, we're a little short of manpower, we're gonna get up to full, so we have 2 officers in the academy right now, it's gonna bring us up to our full contingent, in March. Certainly they're deployable, to certain shifts that help solve anything, that would be one of them, so. Yeah, we're open to anything, whatever we can do for the community or, to make things better, we deploy the officers out, we need to, sure.
I appreciate all the efforts.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah, we're here.
yeah,
My name is Rodrigo Nunes. I live on 7 Fox Hollow Trail. Just wanted to say a couple things that my family looked at before moving into Bernardsville with community safety, education, and things like that. That's what my wife and I chose to move into Bernardsville. Before I get into this, I do want to publicly thank the police and all first responders in here because they do an amazing job. Thank you for that. I did hear some amazing statistics in there, but unfortunately where we live, it seems like the statistics are not really lining up. We've gotten several cars stolen from our driveways. I have a lot of video from people going into the car at my door and testing it out and things like that. Which is very, very nerve-wracking, right? Recently, as we just articulated, we had a neighbor in our community that had folks break into their house. And what's really chilling for me is those individuals went through the house and were feet away from their infant. That's not something that I really want to deal with. The material stuff can actually be replaced, no issue with that. What we can't replace is the fear, all the trauma that's being caused to the family, and how high alert we have been put here. Right, so what I do want to ask the leadership here and everybody involved is, I do want to ask a little bit more of a collective plan, right? Which is, how do we develop something that's more for the community, that can give ideas, what to do. Closing windows is great, but we're all doing it, but they're coming up our driveways, right? So what do we do, right? Develop a little bit more of a comprehensive plan with police and other resources, whether it be Flock, the company that you're articulating with cameras, or lawyers, they can use subpoena to ping cell phone towers, because all those folks have phones, right? We got to outsmart them, right? How do we do that? Look for technology, AI, facial recognition, and things like that. We're short of manpower. How do we actually test this to see if it actually does work? Reach other organizations, right? Us as a community as a whole. If we could get a better rate for, ADT or Vivian or other companies where we can actually, kind of help our community get better resources, and then let the folks know that we actually optically are doing a lot more, and we're not the community that wants to be targeted, right? And just that regular cadence, right, of communication. I asked for the transparency, I asked for the communication, I asked for that because that helps our wives, ourselves sleep better. And I sit here and say my vision of success is the following. I want this town to be known as a beacon of safety, right? What I don't want, and what failure is to me, is our town being covered on the media for something a little bit more nefarious than hard that, right? Things can escalate pretty quickly, and I don't want that. I always want my kids here to be safe. I want to retire here. I want my kids to always be here. And if I need to be part of the solution, I'm here, right? So thank you for your time, and look forward to any other.
thank you.
Actually, I think that people want to know what they should do, what they should look for, what are some ideas they could use besides locking doors and things, like what neighbors can do to look at other neighbors' houses to keep an eye out. I think they just want a list because they're scared. And I think I think is what people are looking to gain.
No, I do understand. I think, listen, for me, like I mentioned, I'm a resident of the community also. If the number is not 0, there's failure somewhere, right? I mean, to sit here and say, for me to accept that 6 cars is okay, if I'm portraying that, I don't mean it that way. I'm just purely providing some stats so we know that we're not trending in the wrong direction. We're kind of staying flat and where we stand. We want that number to be 0. We've had zeros. We've had a couple of years looking back over the 15 years when there's been no crime. And that's the way we want it to be. One of the programs we tried to start up a couple of years ago was a neighborhood watch program. The Blazer Drive and Fox Hollow community would be a good community to do that in. I have two officers that would be more than willing to sit here and have a community meeting, and go over what the neighborhood watch program is and provide some resources to everyone, how we can do it as a community, as a neighborhood. It just takes some leadership from the community and specifically the residents to do that. It's not something that police basically run for you. It's we need somebody from that community group, that residential group, to say, I'm gonna be the neighborhood watch spokesman, leader for, and now communicate back and forth with the police. We tried it a few times. At one point, Charlotte Hill on Meeker was getting hit pretty hard for years. And we tried that with their group. It didn't go very well. They just, we thought we had the meeting up and running, and it just kind of fizzled out rather quickly. So, but I have the resources to provide those officers to be part of that community watch program. I'm more than happy to do it. I can give you my information outside if you want it, but if you go to our website, my email is right on there also.
I'm in the neighborhood, so I can, you give it to me, I can connect everybody
Sure.
together.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, listen, we all know, I mean, we talked about occupational music, but I think anybody in any community, you have to be aware. Awareness is important. Knowing your neighbors is very important. Knowing what kind of cars they drive and, you know, do we want to, when you make a phone call, I found it very difficult over the years when somebody calls up and says, somebody just doesn't look right. It's very difficult, and I think Jack can talk from the legal end of that. It's very difficult for us to just say, okay, I'm coming to talk to somebody. I can't just hold somebody over because you don't think that person fits your neighborhood, but at least it brings us to the area. I mean, if that's the best we could do at that point, is at least make a presence. That's good also, but yeah, if you see something that looks at a place, call it. And
The chief on that point?
You know your community.
He talked to, so, the one resident kind of mentioned someone coming up and testing locks, and we just talked about, this doesn't look right. We're aware of a few scams that happen among residents in town, of people posing as, say, contractors, or, other incidents where it turned out the person, you know, wasn't what they said they were. Are you aware of incidents like that? And is that something that residents should be on the lookout for too?
Yeah, I think everybody, you always have to be aware of the scams. I think, the elderly scams, the phone scams are terrible for certain. And you don't want to be duped or misled or fall into a trap. We had a resident not that long ago, I don't think we made it public, but, decided to give away $99,000 to somebody because they got a phone call and this resident was told that there was some bank mistake and they gave this person access to their computer over the phone. And the next thing that happened to that resident was his computer went blank and he realized somebody was in his bank account taking all his money. And that person lost $99,000. It's, from my perspective, how do I stop that? Right? Somebody, common sense is the only thing that really stops that, but especially with our elderly population, I mean, hopefully they have good family that talks to them and makes them aware if somebody calls looking for money, do not give somebody money over the phone. Do not fall into that trap. Yeah, I mean, we can't be everywhere, but we can do our best to try to provide the information. And you know what, maybe we can get out and meet and do more residential meetings with people. I mean, I certainly don't have a problem in the world talking to our community. I mean, if they want to meet and have little community forums or neighborhoods want to get together, myself or a representative would be happy to go and talk to any community in this town, any residential neighborhood.
Yeah, one,
Certainly not a problem.
with it, maybe 3 years ago, we started a law enforcement foundation that has been doing very well. And the whole aim of the foundation is to make grants for things that don't fit into the budget. And that may be a good place to start for the licensed readers,
Sure.
is to reach out to the foundation who accept donations. I think was it BL?
Bernardsville Law Enforcement
Yeah,
Foundation.
BLEF.com, I think is the website, but they've been doing a great job of providing funds for extra things.
Our current mission is to provide, I've worked with the schools and the foundation to put emergency lockers in all our schools. And these lockers will have equipment for responding officers being in case of an emergency. They would not contain weapons or ammunition, but it's emergency response equipment like door prying tools, trauma kits, ballistic shields, anything that might help an officer in an emergency. So, you know, the cost is expensive. That's something that I'm gonna bring to the council and say we need to put these in all our schools. But I approached the foundation and they're more than happy to support it. And all the schools wanna deploy them also. So hopefully early in 24, we're gonna order those and start installing them in our school. They look no different than something when we were kids, the fire department had little lockers in schools. You see the fire hose and things like that. It looks like something a fire department would use. It's just a small little red locker and it gets mounted on a wall, but has pretty good safety mechanisms for people breaking into it. It's almost impossible to break in if you didn't have a key. So we would have the keys, which is good.
I have another problem. Bernards Avenue. I've been up there and I've been challenged and I called the police. It's out of control.
Wait, we're only talking now about the car theft.
Okay, but I thought we were talking about police. And
Well, I think there might be people that wanna,
Okay.
Zoom. I mean, that's more for
I'll sit
open,
down.
that's like open
I
session.
just want to be able to talk about what's going on in that area of town that needs an officer there. That's it.
Well, you can talk offline to,
We've done that.
you've done.
I want to talk in front of everybody, okay? Because it's a serious problem, what's going on out there.
Well, I'm certainly not, I wasn't prepared for that tonight. I'm not gonna
Okay.
get to a back and forth about Bernards Avenue.
Well,
No,
I'm gonna say, hold on.
Joe, we'll do
One
it at
second.
open session,
Okay.
okay?
Just for the record, I have 0 complaints except from jail on that matter. So for me to go and deploy my resources to one area, well, I don't see it fits. I'm not gonna go back and forth on this topic and run over. I have an officer who lives in the neighborhood. He's not reporting any problems to me. He's one of my commanding officers. I don't know what else we can do to make you happy on that one. I don't
Okay,
know.
do you think that
what-
the state,
what I have to do.
the streets are safe? You can't even, they're parking, we've designed a 24-foot roadway, and
Okay,
they're parking over the curb.
Joe, we're not having this discussion yet,
Okay.
okay?
No.
I wanna see if anyone on Zoom would like to ask the chief a question about the recent trends that we're seeing, or, oh, we got another one here.
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody on Zoom, if you would use the little hand icon.
David Dean, 189 North Finley. We're right there, short of glasses, so kind of got the back side of that whole situation.
Absolutely.
I think you hit the nail on the head with regard to technology. Sounds like you've already got some good information on systems being very attainable. I think that putting resources like another officer on duty, if the cost has got to be 90 days versus what the technology can provide for you guys right now. And I don't know where the push or pressure needs to come from on some of these things, but the 5 guys that's in the neighbor's house, it's kind of got everybody fired up around. So we're just looking for a response and some forward direction. Forwardly speaking, the technology, I think, is probably the best route to get out there. Even if these cameras were on a tripod with the 7 to 8 entrances we have, if by chance you guys have a cell phone, which they do, I think it would be a pretty good help. That being said, I called around some vendors I work with through MTA security guys. The tech is there, and the tech is all internet based now too, which is cool. So if you can get the broadband, it's available. The legal ramifications are that those systems are only accessible by law enforcement.
Right.
If there was a platform to share it, great, but for now, if the technology is not in the squad car as it sits idle, it should be. If it's not on a street light, the 2 that we have in our town, should be. If it's not at the 7 or 8 entrances, we might be missing an opportunity to at least give these guys a heads up. Because if we've got 2 officers on duty, even if they double that to 4, it's not a big town, but it's a short period of time. So I just feel like that technology, if there's more thoughts or discussions to be had, we would partner on figuring out a way. The community wants to be involved. These guys we're already meeting once a week for neighborhood watch before there was crime. You know, so we'll take you up on the neighborhood watch stuff.
I'm
and try to be
more than
involved.
happy to do that.
We're in, but if the conversation needs to be had again about the tech, I think that's probably your best bet, because having you guys burn fuel, that ain't it. Having you guys post up on the radio, that ain't it. But if statistically we could show in 1 year that you nab somebody, you got these guys, you know, really reinforces
Listen,
that.
I can't speak for every town in the state. I don't know how effective they are. I do know, from one of the conversations I've had with Vaughan Township, when they deployed the ALPRs, they saw their motor vehicle thefts drop from the low 20s to 12. Now, was it just because of those? The chief there seems to feel that it was a major factor in it. Because there's officers, when they got their alerts, they were able to flood certain areas.
Sure.
And at the very least, chase the bad guys out of town, so to speak.
Sure.
Showing that presence and, you know, getting the word out that Warren wasn't the place you want to get off the highway. The officer was going to be stop you in a minute if you come off the highway in a stolen car. So it's had an effect there. But like I said, not the community surrounding us, nobody else has them.
Right.
So listen, it is probably a bigger thing for the Sunset Hills to work together to
Sure.
try to get some.
Conclusions. Kind of partner with other counties.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I think between Far Hills and Berners Township, all these different communities, does each one need a specific camera at the entrance and exits of their towns? Probably not, but if you partner together in a group that carry a large area, I'm sure you can find a way to do it effectively.
I guess top down, probably trending, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's budget cuts, the police force has kind of been heavy on that for the last couple of years. Are you guys?
The town council's wonderful, so I think.
That's pretty good around here. Yeah, so if there's resources needed, where it's an outcry to the community that's already kind of getting their bottom smacked on this. The town is able and willing to help for sure.
Mhm.
Aside from that, the grants, if this is
Well,
something
you
that we
can-
can do and let the government pay for it, then.
Encourage people to donate to the foundation and ask the foundation to help us with this.
Do you have this in your part of the town?
Yeah, right now we do not. None of our cars have.
That's important, because I think that even in an idle position, if 5 cars go by and one of them is stolen, or the technology now also has some artificial intelligence where it can check the trend on that tag is registered out of Newark. What's he doing there at 3? Probably an Uber guy. Put your guns away. But if police knew that we had an Uber guy on Laser at 3 AM and did a drive-by, might be helpful. So, I mean, overall, we're just trying to find a way, if we can plug anything in that helps you guys do this job better, well, that you're doing it wrong. Appreciate it.
No, everybody can do better.
Yeah.
We always try to do that. Sure.
Our community put in probably 15 grand worth of ring cameras this last couple of weeks.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like
I think everybody on that street, all the streets has a ring camera.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's all.
thank you. Thank you, David.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
I didn't see anybody raise their hand on Zoom, did you? All right, well, Chief, thank you so much for
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
coming,
Yeah.
giving us your time.
Thanks to the department.
If you need me here next month, I'll be happy to talk more about it. Joe, whenever you want to meet, all right, we'll talk. I have no problem, figuring it all out. And like I said, the neighborhood watch program, if anybody wants to get in touch with me.
My position is beyond the police. So, police and what is going on here, that's certainly going to know.
Are we good for tonight?
We're good for
Yes,
tonight,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, great.
Who do we call and get in touch with you, Chief? 911?
You look at the birds, my email's right down there. All right, we'll respond the same day, all right?
Get Somerset County when you call 911.
Okay, moving on, Joe Platt, I thought that was you, all right. Thank you for coming down here. Sorry Nancy's not here, I guess we had a conversation with her at the league. But as you know, we are dealing with traffic and parking issues, and we'll be dealing with them more as we evolve. So, yeah, and I know that's your specialty, so we wanted to kind of hear what you do and if it's something that we could use.
Yes, thanks for having me. So my name is Joe Platt with Traffic Planning and Design. Locally, we're in Freehold, New Jersey, and we also have an office through one of our subsidiaries in Warren, New Jersey.
Oh,
We have 20-ish offices throughout the East Coast right now, headquartered in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Specialize in traffic and transportation as part of the civil engineering realm. So a lot of what I do is municipal engineering. You know, like your town, your borough engineers. But I focus on the traffic side of it. With that, we look at parking, which we were talking with Nancy about. We understand there's some issues with parking, and we're kind of gotten around some ideas. She asked me to come in here tonight to talk about that. Locally, we represent Morristown Borough, which we've been working on some other issues with them. Old Ridge, Issues with them. She asked me to kind of just come in and, you know, I think you had some questions that maybe you had from me. What we like to do is kind of look at parking holistically. There's a lot of different options on how to solve it, depending on your needs, depending on the needs of the commercial businesses. We're really understanding how it's being utilized today. I mean, parking, is it a peak hour? Is it an off-peak hour? Is there ways to share parking with other businesses that maybe they have, lot sharing agreements? Valet parking, I understand, might be a little bit of an issue. There's ways to permit and license that. So they're only going to certain lots and they're only doing certain operations. Orange County just enacted an ordinance, along those lines of licensing that valet parking. So again, just to kind of control it, to kind of direct it where it belongs, and kind of keep your roads as free as you can and keep that turnover going really for parking, especially in a commercial area. It's all about turnover. You don't want people camping out there overnight if they're not supposed to. So how do you kind of enforce that? How do you encourage that strongly? And how do you put them where they belong and make sure they have the infrastructure for it? So, I handed out a couple of things about our company, more about our profile, who we are, some of the projects we've worked on here locally and nationwide. We've done this, all throughout New Jersey, Pennsylvania, as far down as North Carolina. If you're familiar with Western North Carolina, the town of Black Mountain, we did something similar where we looked at parking and how it's being done, how it's handled, and what we can do to kind of reinforce their parking requirements. We look at their code, you take a look at your code and see where your code stacks up against others in the area, where it stacks up against national trends, where you might be able to, beef that up a little bit. I know you have a big redevelopment project. But kind of how that all fits into this. Again, that parking's kind of set within that redevelopment, but there might be other opportunities you can look at while that comes online, whether it be an long-term solution. With the transit line, NJ Transit's always looking to monetize their real estate. So there might be opportunities if they have excess real estate or have other ways, they're always looking for opportunities to monetize that. That might be something we can take advantage of. But I can't kind of throw it all out there for you tonight. I can answer any specific questions.
Yeah. Joe, I know it's been a big conversation, I'll use that word, and concern. So you mentioned the redevelopment projects, but it's bigger than that. There's been an entire rezoning overlay of mostly the borough, which over the next 10 to 20 years will have density impacts. As a council, we want to stay in front of parking and traffic, not chase it.
Right.
So, one of the things that we've asked Nancy, and that's part of the reason why you guys, not only with you, but also with a planner engineer, understand how that density change will ultimately affect the borough. And with you modeling traffic and parking, so you can make decisions now.
Yeah, so she had shared with me a map. I think there's a whole bunch of developments on there. So what you would want to look at is what your supply is now. So that's how much parking you have, and whether it's private lots, whether it's borough lots, whether it's on street. What is your supply and what is your current demand? And then when you start factoring in all these developments, there's going to be other things. I know the state is requiring you to provide EV parking now for certain residential developments. So how does that impact it? Because again, it's part of that parking requirement, but really you need to over park if you're going to be considering EV parking to a degree. So you got to kind of start adding all of these on, coming up with, all right, here's what we have today. Might be doing an okay job, maybe we could do a little better, and then just start layering those on as things are coming online. You can just kind of enact those, the fair share analysis type calculations might be something to consider, where we're gonna need something. How do we pay for it, and what do we have development wise that could help support that payment?
Do you also work with planning boards and other municipalities as well, or just?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, we work with planning boards.
Because in my business, we talk about all the time, on one job, $5,000 may seem like a lot until you make that same mistake 35 times. And now you're talking about real money, and inevitably every building that comes up, they're looking for one spot back, right? So by the time you do that 25 times, you created a problem. I think we just need to know that.
Yeah, so in there, there's a whole list of planning board, rezoning, or replanning, a bunch of different points throughout the state.
Well, yeah, and I think that's been the problem, is we look at each thing separately and
Separately.
not the holistic impact.
Yeah, so I think the first step is getting an idea of what you have
Okay.
Yeah.
and what's available to you. And then you can start looking at that, because then you can make those decisions of maybe you have an excess of 100 spaces, so that one spot's not
Yes,
gonna be detrimental, but maybe you are deficient by 100 and you're giving away one. That might be a different conversation.
yeah.
So it's really understanding first what your parking situation is.
what kind of timeline, so if you talk about those items, sorry, I'm gonna call it.
Nope, those are all my questions. Keep going.
So present analysis, future analysis. What kind of timelines do we typically look, 6 months, 9 months?
Yeah, if we're really looking just at downtown, maybe as it enters and comes in, if you look at the whole borough wide, it might be a little bit.
No, I
It's
was
just that
talking
core
about
area.
downtown or
The downtown core, the downtown quarter.
And then the corridors that.
Yeah, it's about a 6-month process. If you wanna have public meetings that, you know, beyond just this type of public meeting, but have like public open houses and something, it might stretch that out about 9 months. For some scheduling, but yeah, 6 to 9 months is about.
We should look at the downtown, the other area by Bernards Avenue, that area as far as traffic flow and parking issues. That should be encompassed in this.
Yes. Yeah, all the connecting corridors.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, because that's gonna be impacted by.
Do you ever work with state DOT, state agencies on actually road flow and volume analyses and determining whether or not we're adding another lane to a state
We do.
highway?
We do. We work on the municipal side in concert with the municipal, with the DOT. Let them know on the, we also represent several counties throughout it, Monmouth County, Mercer County, Burlington County. We have on-call contracts with them where we are their engineer, so to speak, so we're doing those same type of analysis.
Because, yeah, we're
Yeah,
on
it's coming
state
months.
highway and county.
Yeah. So we'll be working with them saying, here's our needs, how do they participate in that if they do? You know, a lot of times they're not building new capacity until it's too late. But that's just the nature of them balancing their budgets and everything else, so it's.
Every time we bring them in, they say we only saw 5 cars, call us in 10 years.
Yeah, so it's really having a plan, saying, here's what we have and here's what we need. But you know, you really need that information up front, because if you go to any other agency, they're gonna look at it and say, well, what do you have to support that? And if it's anecdotal or if it's, you know, just, we think we need something, you don't get quite the positive response of saying, here is our plan and here are some of the objectives we're trying to accomplish, how can you help us?
when you're looking at traffic flow, would you look at, I'm talking about side streets, not in the center of town, potential areas where if we made them one way, they would be, maybe might alleviate parking issues or make the traffic flow work better, or whether circles would work better, or some other different road configuration would work better in a certain area? Is that in your purview?
Yeah, we certainly could do that. That's a little more than that 6 to 9 month time frame, depending on how many roads and how many different ways you're looking at rearranging your traffic patterns. But yeah, certainly looking at converting 2-way to 1-way. We got to look at the parallel roads and where you're putting those. Not sure if you have a big truck issue coming through, but if you have trucks and you're gonna start making these changes, you know, trucks are gonna follow the path of least resistance, whether they should or not. So are you creating another problem? So those are the different kind of things you need to look at.
Good point, yeah, good point. Thank you. Anybody else?
Do you work with the borough planners when you do this, or are you usually just?
Oh, no, yeah, I mean, it's a collective group. I mean, ideally, we'd like to have a steering committee of people. So that we're getting a whole, you know, cross section of everybody, you know, whether it be on the business side, whether it be on the, you know, the administration side, understanding what your limitations are as a borough, what you can, what you can't do, what's, you know, something that's been thought of and was, you know, was kicked aside for when we're understanding that, but yeah, it's a collective effort here. It would just be us coming in and doing that.
Great. Anybody else?
Nope, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
good
Thank
job,
you,
Nancy.
Joe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, how's Nancy feeling? She getting better?
She's on there, but we're not gonna see her.
Yeah, Nancy, I hope you're, yeah, everybody said leave Nancy alone. Hope you're feeling better, Nancy.
I'm here, thank you.
All right.
What was that?
Now it is time for an open session for items not listed for a public hearing. So if anyone from the public, again, please Remember, it's a 3-minute limit and, make sure you give us your name and your address.
My name is Joe Rossi.
Oh,
I live here in Bernardsville, and I'm around town every day. And the problem that I'm here to talk about right now is the Bernards Avenue situation. Whether you want to believe it or not, there's stacking going on. I can bring you people in here right now that are living in houses that there's 20 people living in the house. And there's a car problem. The cars are parked all over the lawns and every corner in no parking areas, whatever. They just go wherever they want. They park on the church property that they're not supposed to be. They park at angles that you can't get around corners. Right now, the garbage company has called me like once a week. Can you do anything about what's going on Mine Avenue and these streets where there's cars? They go down the road and they can't turn on to the roadway to pick up the garbage. You understand that? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you've been up there and you've seen it?
they call you. I was gonna say, why is the garbage company calling you?
Because I could give them an answer. I'll go there and I'll talk about it, okay? Because why isn't it being taken care of? Is this something that I'm the only one that is seeing the problem?
I can tell you that there's an active conversation right now on the safety committee about mitigation strategies, including striping and a lot of different things right now, yeah.
All right, so they, you know that if you come off of Bernards Avenue, take a side street there, they've narrowed the roadways to 18 feet, which is a problem, okay? 2 cars, a driveway with 2 cars parked in it is 20-some feet. So now you have a problem with two-way traffic. And now you have a problem with people that can't park, they're parking over the curb and on the lawns. So now that 18 feet is sometimes less than that. So I don't know why it's being done. Now, if you turn onto Mine Avenue, and there's a car that's parked right there, pointing at you as you make the turn one way or the other way. If we were at the fight a fire down there, we would not be able to turn our new rigs up and down those streets. So this is going on every day. It's a critical hazard that is not being dealt with. Then you have the guy down the end of mine, he left his fencing right on the curb. That's in the right of way. We have a right of way. That's a 32-foot right of way. Why are we allowing this to happen? Now you turn up mine and you look up Garibaldi, and there's all these pickup trucks or vans on the side of the road. So it's all one-way traffic. Now snow is coming. I talked to all the snow guys that plow those areas. He said, we can't even plow it sometimes. So now it becomes a health and safety item, that the plows can't plow that snow off to the curb and it's got to roll over into the right of way. If that isn't done and it's left on the roadway, which has been, the ice forms and it's a nightmare. So this has been going on, but no one is dealing with it. Now the cul-de-sac and Garibaldi, there's 5 cars jammed in there. And then where are all these people? They're all living in these houses. So the other day I'm walking down the street and a young gentleman asked me, hey, Mr. Rossi, how you doing? I said, hey, how are you? He said, I got married. Hey, that's great. Where you living? He says, Bernards Avenue. Where are you living on Bernards Avenue? Oh, I live in this house. I rented a bedroom, my wife and I. But there's 20-some people living there. I said, how do you do that? You know, what I'm saying is code, all these different things are not happening. Now, Bernards Avenue is another problem. And I'll tell you a little story. The story is that
Joe, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
That's what the beeper is.
So if I put another face on,
So we'll take it up with the safety committee. We can take care of it.
can I be involved with it? The stacking? I mean, if you want any more information.
Those are things,
Those are things you should report to the zoning office. They should know that this is happening in those houses.
I think that.
And we have all new people in zoning.
All the information that I've gotten back so far as the neighborhood saying, complaining, whatever, they asked me to come and say this, okay? Now we'll see if this gets done. All right? So can I have a point man that I can deal with?
You can always call me Joe.
Okay. We're gonna work on it,
Also,
okay?
I think that you have to tell the residents, if they see these things, they should be calling the police or zoning directly. They don't have to call you to do it, because it's really difficult when they go through 5 different people.
All right, well,
They
let's
should
say
be
this.
Calling directly to complain and to document, to take.
I just have to say one
And
other
they
thing.
should take pictures. Pictures help.
I drive down Bernards Avenue and they're parked in the street and they're parked all over the property. I stop and I call the police. The police came and said, what's wrong, Mr. Rossi? I said, this gentleman's blocking the roadway. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, give him a ticket. He said, you want to fill out a complaint? I said, no, that's not my job.
We recently just did a car count there. We're looking at some mitigation strategies. We just paved those roads. We don't want those curbs. We want those roads to be treated properly.
Right.
We're looking into mitigation strategies like right now.
And we're talking about sidewalks.
And we're talking about
And the
sidewalks.
sidewalks, that's another thing I want to say. The cars are parking to block anyone, they have to walk on the street to go anywhere.
That's
So
not
that's,
okay.
that's part of the problem, all right?
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Anyone on Zoom would like to be heard? I see a hand.
Fran, library.
Oh, yeah, who's not here? Yes.
Hi. I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Oh, good. Sorry. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the police and the fire department and the Department of Public Works. Last week in the library, we had a burning plastic smell that was unsettling, and we tried to discover its source and we couldn't. And no sooner had I texted John McDowell than we heard the sirens, then everybody was there. And I was just so impressed with a volunteer fire department that came out immediately with all of their equipment and was able to reassure us and to get to the root of the problem. So we're very thankful for their service. I also just wanted to secondly address a point that Jay had brought up in the last meeting about recording videos and having Zoom links for transparency. I think all of that is great to share the Zoom links and make sure they're widely available for public meetings. I feel that recording the meeting and posting it online is a sort of different layer of becomes a storage difficulty over time to have a lot of recorded Zoom meetings. We have a few in our records that I have to keep track of, and you can post them on YouTube and it's sort of archived there, but you're supposed to keep a copy somewhere else on a disk or on a drive or whatever. So I would like to encourage the minutes to be the record of the meeting, and the meeting to be fully accessible, of course. So that was all. Thank you.
Thanks, Fran. Jeff, is there a limit to how long you have to save recordings? Or is that in the records?
Yeah, it's in the records regulation.
Regular records retention?
We still video recordings. There's no requirement that we have video recordings.
No, but I remember in the records retention.
like 90 days.
Yeah, something like, yes,
Yeah.
Candy used to.
So that you can purge them at some point. Yeah. They do get
Those
cumbersome.
were cassette tapes.
Yeah.
You're right. Those are the old
The little
files.
cassettes.
Yeah, that's stuff we used to do that, to get rid of those, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Fran. I saw somebody else's hand.
We got Kathleen Williams.
Okay.
Hello, Kathleen Williams, 90 Round Top Road, Bernardsville, New Jersey. Yet again here to talk about the unauthorized dumping of stormwater onto my private property. And despite weeks ago publicly stating, borough council people publicly stating they would meet with me, the borough administrator and council are still refusing to discuss. I have confirmed via the borough engineer that they are actively using my private property without an easement or permission as a stormwater discharge. Via a letter from the borough attorney, they have confirmed that there is damage to my private property. Via an Oprah, they have confirmed that they have expanded the road in 2013 to 2014 with the engineer confirming they architected a design to discharge all the water from the left and the right of my property onto my property as an active stormwater overflow, not surface water as alleged, but active stormwater discharge all around pooling that was existing, which is why they undertook the project. I also find it interesting that I have confirmed via an Oprah that the borough addressed water damage to number 120 Round Top Road, which is also on the south side as I am, in 2014. However, they added drainage to drain actively onto my property. They just repiped it from 120 down to mine at 90. Again, via Oprah, despite multiple requests, there is no definition of the borough right away that anyone has been able to provide to me, defining who uses it, what the use is for, or who maintains it. Now, I did receive a letter from the borough, and I will confirm from the borough's attorney, the reason they are not addressing my issue is number one, it has existed for decades. So if there's a violation to the community at large, if you have a violation that exists for decades, the borough ignores it. Secondly, the borough is ignoring the violation because when I purchased my property, they were actively dumping and using private property, again, without an easement, to dump the property. So I'd like the borough to, again, reconsider. You're addressing other neighbors' issues. You're actively violating and dumping stormwater, not surface water, actively engineered a solution for my neighbors to dump all the water onto my private property, draining, damaging my property, plus the 2 subsequent properties on Laurelwood below me, who have experienced tens of thousands of dollars since this went into effect and the road was widened. And I don't know if this is the right time, but there is a payment of bills to the stormwater compliance solution, which I'd like to consider. I'd like to understand what that is there for and what you are paying for, since evidently they are not managing stormwater discharge appropriately in a closed system as your requirement is.
I don't know what that's for.
It is item 23-241, payments of bills, check number 6377.
They deal with all our stormwater regulations to make sure they're in compliance with state regulations.
Well, by definition of you actively dumping stormwater onto my property, you are in violation. So why are you paying someone who's confirming that you're in violation or acknowledging and accepting you're in violation of a closed stormwater discharge system? Which, notwithstanding all the drainage inlets on Round Top Road, which are actively and designed and architected to dump on my property, say and indicate on the steel that it is dumping, you do not dump garbage because it is going into an active waterway. There is no active waterway. It's actively dumping onto my private property. And let's talk about, is it surface water? There is a 4-foot gully on my property because of the active stormwater discharge. And I will also add, again, you should look at the architect and what you receive for paying over $700,000 for the system, because the engineer said there should have been a 12-inch weir or wall to help slow down the water flow, but it's 7, and it's not a 2-foot deep inlet. But if you don't want to talk about it, I'll handle it again via email.
I'm wondering what engineer. Okay. Anyone else?
Not seeing any more hands.
What's the second one? I can't, oh, that's not it.
That was Nancy, the second one.
No. Okay, then I will close the public session. We have a public hearing on ordinance 2023-1987, and ordinance concerning construction code fees and amending chapter 12 of the Borough Code entitled Building and Housing. Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Building and housing. Diana, why don't you move that?
I move to pass ordinance 2023-1987 on final reading and adopt as published.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amley?
Yes.
Mr. Greenfield?
Yes.
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Mr. McQueen?
Yes.
Mr. Merrill?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll offer that the profits still aren't high enough, so we need to reevaluate.
What?
That the fees probably still aren't high enough, so
Oh.
we need to reevaluate. I offered that at the last meeting too.
Yeah, I know. We're getting there. One more time. We have an ordinance to introduce, which is raising the sewer connection fees. I think it's $20 a year on the annual fee, and then another went from $100 on the connection fee. And it's, I think the finance committee reviewed this.
Yep.
Yeah, Al, why don't you move that?
Move that ordinance 2023-19 concerning sewer connection fees and sewer user rates. Now allocation amendment chapter 16 of the Borough Code entitled Sewer Regulations be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 2 p.m. Tuesday, December 26, 2023, remote only via Zoom.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, moving on to resolutions. I just want to commend Nancy for being the interview queen. Thank you for getting those appointments filled so quickly. And from the resumes you sent, they look like we're getting some really good quality people, so I'm excited to meet them all. Any that you want to talk about separately? And again, the employee handbook was, we already did Nancy's corrections last time, and now it was just the attorney making legal changes.
Yep.
So. Okay, somebody want to move them?
I'll move it. I move that resolutions 23-241 through 23-256 be adopted.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Mr. Adline.
Yes. And Nancy, just keep us up to date on 256, the Park Mobile stuff, please.
Yep.
Mayor, can I just say something about Park Mobile?
You certainly can.
Just to be clear, the only thing that you authorized was to put Park Mobile in the train station. So in the resolution, it says parking lots, and I just want to point out that we had to put parking lots in all the possible lots so that we could get the less expensive rate going forward, because at any time in the future, if you want to add lots, we're subject to possibly a higher rate. So we just want to put them all in, but we're not going to do anything with them. They're all going to be in the resolution and in the contract, but they will only be implemented as you see fit going forward.
Nancy, what committee will you implement through? Will that be through public safety? Probably not through finance. Is there gonna be, or is it just gonna do it directly through council?
Well, I mean, I thought that you already okayed the train station. Like, we're just going to replace the decals and the parking meter that's there with Park Mobile. Like, so nothing's changing unless, you know, you hire that parking guy and he says we should reconfigure the parking.
So, yeah, that's actually what I was referring to when I said keep us up to date. As we think of other lots or other locations in town to implement a Park Mobile, where it might make sense. I'm just wondering what committee you think we should implement those decisions through. Either, I think could be public safety, because we deal with a lot of parking issues and we're dealing with parking issues right now.
Yeah, I think public safety makes sense because Sergeant Richard is the traffic person who I've been working with on this, so it makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Update on November 28th, the Salvation Army did their kickoff at ShopRite with their little kettles and big splash. They had their band there, and it was one of those really cold mornings. We had the band, we had the Rutgers mascot, so it was really a nice PR event for them, and I think hopefully a successful campaign. I attended the ELC lunch, which is through the business partnership. The speaker they had was Choose New Jersey, the president and CEO, Wesley Matthews, which if you get a chance, go to choosenewjersey.com. It's interesting what this program is doing to try and bring businesses into New Jersey or keep ones that are here. We also that same day did the ribbon cutting at Community in Crisis, their new community center in the back of the building. If you get a chance to go see it, it is magnificent. It's a really nice facility, and they'll be doing a lot more after school things with middle school students. So they do just such a great job. They actually, well, she told us they went down to Washington, D.C. to receive an award. On the second, we had the tree lighting, thank you, Joe, and the holiday parade all in one day. I think it was a lot of fun. It was a great night. It was not too cold, which was good. So it really was a fun time. A lot of people came out for it. On the fourth, we had a meeting with our new planner, Matt Jessup, and Advanced Realty to start looking at Quimby again. So you'll hear more about that hopefully soon. That was mostly to get the planner up to date on the history of the project. I attended a webinar on the mayor's wellness campaign. Our application for Healthy Town is due in January, so I'll be working on that. Nancy and I also attended the shared municipal court meeting. We do those, I think, twice a year. And Nancy had some great suggestions for new ways to look at how we allocate the cost of that. So we'll hear more about that. The 8th, we had the police breakfast at Rock Citacus. Nancy also attended that, which is done by the foundation. They pay for the whole breakfast. It was just such a nice event to see all the cops getting recognition for. It's amazing when you hear the stories of the things they've done over the years, over the year. Just a lot were mental health issues that they dealt with admirably, that a lot of police departments don't do well. We do that very well. And the foundation, really is amazing. They need to encourage people to make more donations, because I'd love to get those license readers. That was what, the 8th. The menorah lighting that was supposed to be last night got postponed till tomorrow. So tomorrow at 5 at the Bernardsville Center, if you want to attend, they do a nice little, they have donuts and singing. And so today, Al and I were at the Somerset County Business Partnerships annual meeting. Sold out crowd. I have never seen that place so packed. It was at the Palace down in Somerset. They give out awards at that time. They had a financial expert talking about the upcoming recession, which they've been talking about for a while. But every year they honor 40 people under 40 who are making a difference. And Olivia Manning was one of those 40. So that was nice. Reminder, Wednesday night is the Somerset County governing official holiday dinner at Alfonso's in Somerville. If anybody wants to go, it's $40. And Anthony can do the purchase order. And this Saturday, December 16th, we're doing the Wreaths Across America ceremony at St. Bernard's at 2 o'clock. It's a really nice event. We don't take too long. The scouts will be helping us again this year. But if you want to come, there's a little ceremony, and then we go out and put the wreaths on the veterans' graves. So it's really a nice thing for the holidays to do. So, and that's my report. We did the Shamrock Shuffle. I think Nancy will let her not have to talk. A whole lot of fun. Friends of the Bernardsville Library. They do this every year. I think this is for the liquor license for them to be able to serve wine. Is that what that's about? Yeah. Anybody have a problem with it?
No.
Anybody gone? You had gone to it? It's really fun.
Yeah, I'm actually the other comments.
That's right, you've been there.
That's February.
Okay. Yeah, it's February. It really is a lot of fun. Transportation, that was me. We had the proposal from the county for the senior bus. Let me see if I can find that page here. They are charging us, we get 1 day a week for 3 hours. They charge us $118.42 for the driver plus $25 for the bus. So it's $143.42 for a day. I've talked to the school district to see if they could provide us with a driver in one of their little buses about the same time, from like 9:30 to 1:30, which is what the county does. Which they were excited about because their drivers are doing nothing at that time of day. They do a morning run, they do an afternoon run, they're kind of sitting doing nothing. They pay their drivers $32 an hour. So for 1 day a week, it would be $96. I would hope that it's some, maybe not in the first year, but maybe we could work up to 2 times a week. But we could start it once a week to see how it goes instead of the county program. I just have, I feel like local people would like the local service.
What about when school's not in session though?
We did it, well, I did this when I was at Chester. We did it with the borough and the township. We did it all year long.
Okay.
Because they usually have the buses and the drivers for camps and special ed kids that have to go to, placement. So, and it's up to them. I mean, if they, I sent, Ginny, their business administrator, the, shared service agreement that I had done with Chester. So they're gonna look at that. Ours was a little more complicated because it was township and borough together, so I had to allocate who paid for what. The only, I mean, we would have to do the booking, so someone in the office would have to take the calls from the seniors. And we would do, promote it best we could, so.
How many seniors really use it?
We have like 3 that have been using the county one. Yeah,
It's not that many phone calls.
This is your decision, Mayor. It's cost. It has no consequences, cost.
okay, yeah, yeah. Why not? All right, thank you. That was my little thing there. I don't think we have any correspondence. Any unfinished business?
Joe brought up one tonight, I guess I'll just bring it up. I know we've gone around, and I think it's gone, so the sidewalks came up. I know this is a working session, the striping of Bernards Ave came up. It's gone back and forth between safety as well as Public Works. Which committee has that ball right now?
Public Works for the sidewalks.
I think it's hanging right now because we.
It's stuck in the middle.
Well, no, Doug's gone and we're waiting
Yeah.
for the new crew, the new engineer to come
Okay.
in.
I just wanna make sure it doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My personal perspective is that street needs to get striped and we need to report parking.
Yeah, but we need the engineering piece of it, so.
Engineered, striped, and then I would permit it.
Okay. Yeah, January.
Yeah.
Oh, I forget, when was the engineer gonna start?
So Joe, striped and permitted as well.
January 1. Okay.
January 2.
Yes,
There
2,
you go.
January 2. Okay. New business?
I just had one, and maybe it's probably, might be for public safety, I'm not sure, but I've had a resident, and I want to see if anyone else has heard this, reach out to me about possibility of parking overnight in certain parts of the borough. Certain parts of the borough, probably not acceptable because of the tightness of the streets, but maybe other places are. I just want to kind of gauge if people have heard this request, or if it's one resident.
I've seen it happening.
You've seen it happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
I
train
mean,
station.
We only have the no overnight parking from like snow season, right? November through April.
Is that true?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he said,
No, there's some
I didn't
streets.
think
maybe this
that
street,
They can't. Like on Charlesworth, you can't park there on the street at all. And I don't know if the other streets around that area, there's really no reason for it on Charlesworth.
Is
but-
it a specific street that you're talking about?
Sunnybrook.
I wish, Joe was still here.
Sunnybrook is
Yes.
so wide. Joe
Yes,
Platt.
still.
No, not Joe, Joe
Oh,
Platt,
Joe Platt.
Joe Platt. Because, so Al, I think this is something we add to the list.
Yeah,
Overnight parking, commuter parking, all these things need to be part of Joe's assessment.
Well, and we should look at what our ordinances currently say.
I mean, one of the things we
We have not
uncovered
been
in the,
enforcing them.
in the safety committee and why this is continuing to revolve around on some of the streets that are discussed, overnight parking is only permitted when there's snow on the road.
It's not
permitted.
Not permitted, yes,
Yes.
it's not inconsistent with so these are things we have to have Joseph probably
Yeah.
straighten out.
right, and there's obviously safety implications of that, and there's clearly, I don't think we want in the borough just cars everywhere. I can tell you in the community, I grew up in New Jersey, you could call in a car if you needed to have somebody overnight, and the police would know that you're okay for that evening. And it wasn't rampantly abused, I mean, people really respected it, I think, with like respect for the community. So I just think to your point, if we're getting these requests, we just have somebody live in.
Yeah, my concern is some of our public parking lots as
Yeah.
well.
This is not a hard problem, this needs to be seen through to the end. then we need enough
But I don't
manpower,
know
hopefully this gentleman.
what's allowed, cleaned up a little bit too, and then enforced. Yeah.
So Nancy, I hate to ask this question, this is gonna come out of my mouth. Do we have to go out for RFP for this?
No, it's a professional service.
All right, maybe today, let's go.
All right,
Well, thank you.
anything else for new business? Nope.
No.
Jack, you wanna just go over what we're doing in closed session?
Yes, please, Mayor. There's several items that we've added since the agenda. We're discussing personnel matters. We're discussing 2 affordable housing items. Under attorney-client privilege and pending litigation. We're talking about collective bargaining with the BDA, contract negotiations to discuss labor council RFPs, and pending litigation, which is the appeal. And we make them out at the end of the closed session.
We may. Okay.
Did Jeff have something? It's not usual for our vice chair of the planning board to show up.
I have a conflict every Monday night. It got called off. So I decided that those meetings this was gonna be.
You just wanted to come see his.
I was gonna come.
So good. This was like the most boring meeting we've had literally in 12 months.
I know. And this is my one Monday off from my other activity. And I'm gonna come to council meeting.
I did notice that you don't come very often, so I knew at first you were here.
By the way, are we repaving Campbell Road?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say every cyclist in Bernardsville, Bar Hills, Gladstone, Peapack is gonna thank you. Because that's one of the most challenging climbs around here.
Yeah.
On a bike.
Yeah.
People love it, but that road. is tough.
Drainage and milling paving is getting done in the spring.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for you doing.
I'll make the motion.
Yes, please.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Jake, thank you.